To Kill a Mockingbird, a novel by Harper Lee. To Kill a Mockingbird is primarily a novel about growing up under extraordinary circumstances in the 1930s in the southern United States. The story covers a span of 3 years, during which the main characters undergo significant changes. Scout Finch lives with her brother Jem and their father Atticus in the fictitious town of Macomb, Alabama. Macomb is a small, close-knit town, and every family has its social station depending on where they live, who their parents are, and how long their ancestors have lived in Macomb. A widower, Atticus raises his children by himself with the help of kindly neighbors and a black housekeeper named Calpurnia. Scout and Jem almost instinctively understand the complexities and machinations of their neighborhood and town. The only neighbor who puzzles them is the mysterious Arthur Radley, nicknamed Boo, who never comes outside. When Dill, another neighbor's nephew, starts spending summers in Macomb, the three children begin an obsessive and sometimes perilous quest to lure Boo outside. The next winter, Jem and Scout find presents in the tree, presumably left by the mysterious Boo. Nathan Radley, Boo's elder brother, eventually plugs the nut hole with cement. Scout is a tomboy who prefers the company of boys and generally solves her differences with her fists. She tries to make sense of a world that demands that she act like a lady, a brother who criticizes her for acting like a girl, and a father who accepts her just as she is. Scout hates school, gaining her most valuable education on her own street and from her father. Not quite midway through the story, Scout and Jem discover that their father is going to represent a black man named Tom Robinson, who is accused of raping and beating a white woman. Suddenly, Scout and Jem have to tolerate a barrage of racial slurs and insults because of Atticus's role in the trial. During this time, Scout has a very difficult time restraining from physically fighting with other children, a tendency that gets her in trouble with her Aunt Alexandra and Uncle Jack. Even Jem, the older and more level-headed of the two, loses his temper a time or two. After responding to a neighbor's, Mrs. DeBoe's, verbal attack by destroying her plants, Jem is sentenced to read to her every day after school for 1 month. Ultimately, Scout and Jem learn a powerful lesson about bravery from this woman. As the trial draws nearer, Aunt Alexandra comes to live with them under the guise of providing a feminine influence for Scout. During the trial, Atticus provides clear evidence that the accusers, Mayella Ewell and her father Bob, are lying. In fact, Mayella propositioned Tom Robinson, was caught by her father, and then accused Tom of rape to cover her shame and guilt. Atticus provides impressive evidence that the marks on Mayella's face are from wounds that her father inflicted. Upon discovering her with Tom, he called her a whore and beat her. Yet, despite the significant evidence pointing to Tom's innocence, the all-white jury convicts him. The innocent Tom later tries to escape from prison and is shot to death. In the process of presenting Tom's case, Atticus inadvertently insults and offends Bob Ewell. Despite the verdict, he feels that Atticus and the judge have made a fool out of him, and he vows revenge. All three children are bewildered by the jury's decision to convict the innocent Tom. Atticus tries to explain why the jury's decision was in many ways a foregone conclusion. Shortly after the trial, Scout attends one of her aunt's missionary society meetings. Atticus interrupts the meeting to report that Tom Robinson had been killed in an escape attempt. Scout learns valuable lessons about achieving the ideal of womanhood and carrying on in the face of adversity that day. Things slowly return to normal in Macomb, and Scout and Jem realize that Boo Radley is no longer an all-consuming curiosity. The story appears to be winding down, but then Bob Ewell starts making good on his threats of revenge. One evening, Scout takes part of a Halloween pageant at school, playing the part of a ham. With Atticus and Aunt Alexandra both too tired to attend, Jem agrees to take Scout to the school. After embarrassing herself on stage, Scout elects to leave her ham costume on for the walk home with Jem. On the way home, the children hear odd noises, but convince themselves that the noises are coming from another friend who scared them on their way to school that evening. Suddenly, a scuffle occurs. Scout really can't see outside of her costume, but she hears Jem being pushed away and she feels powerful arms squeezing her costume's chicken wire against her skin. During this attack, Jem badly breaks his arm. Scout gets just enough of a glimpse out of her costume to see a stranger carrying Jem back to their house. The sheriff arrives at the Finn's house to announce that Bob Ewell has been found dead under the tree where the children were attacked, having fallen on his own knife. By this time, Scout realizes that the stranger is none other than Boo Radley, and that Boo is actually responsible for killing Ewell, thus saving her and Jem's lives. In spite of Atticus's insistence to the contrary, the sheriff refuses to press charges against Boo. Scout agrees with this decision and explains her understanding to her father. Boo sees Jem one more time and then asks Scout to take him home. But rather than escort him home as though he were a child, she has Boo escort her to his house as a gentleman would.